20 Sports are big. Brought to you by Consumer Cellular. Consumer Cellular, more from Consumer Cellular. Consumer Cellular basketball. It is Virginia Tech and Florida State. Virginia Tech leading at halftime, 46-40. Also, Notre Dame leading Miami by a score of 52-41 at halftime. Later on this afternoon in the NFL and wild card action, it'll be the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Green Bay Packers and try to increase their winning streak to 16 games at home. Later on this evening, it's the reunion of Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford as they go into different places as the Rams take on the Lions at Ford Field. And it is official that J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum of the NCAA Michigan Wolverines, the national champions, are declaring for the NCAA draft. That's your 2020 sports update. This is Lorraine. Coast to coast. You're listening to the best in sports coverage. This is the Rain Sports Network. You're listening and watching the Sports Zone on the Rain with sports vet Michael Lewis and Courtney Mendenhall. Get in and talk now at 1-800-333-TALK or 1-415-777-TALK. From points across America, here's the sports vet and Courtney. Thank you very much for joining us on the Sports Zone right here on the Rain Network. I'm yours truly, the sports vet, Michael Lewis, with you. 1-800-333-2727, 1-415-333-TLK. Courtney Mendenhall is with me. Welcome to the Sports Zone, Courtney.
Hey, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's been a wild sports weekend with the actual, I guess you want to call it wild card weekend. And for your team, it's a wild snowy weekend in Buffalo, and they haven't even left Pittsburgh yet. So, we'll talk about.
Glad they pushed our game back so we can have more time to mentally prepare, because it's kind of scary when you're trying to fight for a position in the playoffs versus, making the playoffs and knowing that you have a spot. So just hoping that we pull it out.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that as well. We will talk about that as well going forward. We know that there are two games. Here in Texas, we don't care about this. I don't care about this game, but we gotta talk about it anyway. It's the How About people. We'll talk about that. They're playing at 4:30 at Eastern, 3:30 Central in Dallas, where they luckily have not lost the game, but can the Packers actually change it as well? You can always follow us on the Sports Zone on X, and also you can listen to us online on. So there is a delay. It looks like there might be a delay in my signal. Looks like there's a delay. There we go. It was a signal delay. As you probably know, there are some parameters in regards to the weather as well. As you know, the weather has been playing havoc a lot. Just in our area, we have a freeze warning for 3 days. So anyway, zone in. Brought to you by Evermore Water. Evermore Water, more better water. www.evermore.com. Well, Courtney, Wild Card Saturday is upon us or past us, and we had we had two different games, and we have one game where it was the Texans whacking Joe Flacco and the Browns yesterday here, where I'm at in Houston, and they beat them 45-14. Your thoughts on that game yesterday?
Well, from my perception, people were telling me I actually didn't get to watch that game. People were telling me that it was a good game, and I was, just kind of looking because I was looking at the progress of it, and the Browns are in the AFC North, so I'm looking to see what they're gonna do and
Mhm.
seeing if we would have to contend against them. The AFC is slowly building, and I think that the AFC North, specifically with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's not the days where it used to just be the Steelers and the Ravens that would go head to head for the titles every year. Now the Browns and the Bengals have built their squads too. I'll be quite honest. It's kind of weird seeing Joe Flacco not play for the Ravens. So when I saw, when I realized he was playing with the Browns this year, I'm like, okay, well, he still has a little bit of gas left in his tank. He's a veteran quarterback, and I didn't expect them to just let the Texans just run all over them. I thought, it would be a great game. So, um, it just depends these days. You never know who's gonna win, honestly.
Well, I looked at the game yesterday and I watched some of it, watched toward the end of it, and I was out and about because I was preparing for the storm,
Mhm.
and possibilities of what may happen like 2021. And it got to the point where it was a clean game, and I went to church. It was a clean game. It was 17-14 when I got out of church. When I got home from the store, and everybody was just cheering in the store saying the Texans are killing the Browns. I'm like, "Hmm?" I got to get home, and I'm like 45-14.
Yeah,
I
that
thought,
that that was a quick turnaround. At first I thought it was going to be like really close because it stayed
Mhm.
close for a little bit, but they just picked up the momentum and just ran with it, and the rest is history. So we play I know we'll get to the Steelers, but we play the Bills, and we're just going to see how that goes cuz honestly our division was very unpredictable this year. Everybody had a winning record, and it was just very close. So I applaud the Browns for making it this far, but the Texans, of course, they had to handle business yesterday.
Yeah, I think the really big thing is that the upcoming C.J. Stroud, and
Mhm.
I tell everybody, you stole all of our people from San Francisco, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, our strong safety, and one of our linebackers. So you did
Uh-huh.
the San Francisco steal. And when I look at that team yesterday, the Texans, I'm thinking, is this the San Francisco Texans or is it the Houston 49ers? I don't
Yeah.
understand. And because a lot of the schematics that D'Amico Ryans ran, he ran the same schematic in San Francisco for 3 years and made our defense the number one defense of what it was.
Right.
And Bobby Slowick gave C.J. Stroud the same thing that Bobby Slowick gave Brock Purdy, or even then the Playboy Jimmy Garoppolo before he went to Vegas. And it's just kind of like you look at it from a standpoint, you're thinking, okay, well, the Texans better hope that the Steelers win next tomorrow because their season, it doesn't really matter. Their season will most likely end next week, and if that happens, if the Bills win, then the Bills will play the lower seed,
Right.
the mid seed. and if the Bills win, no, the Bills will play the Chiefs. That means that the Texans will have to go to you know where, and the Baltimore, and I'll have to take on everybody's MVP favorite, Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens. And they may give him a good quarter, but let's go to the next one. This was the Ice Bowl game. As you probably know, the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Miami Dolphins in a return of Tyreek Hill, who did score a touchdown last night, but Patrick Mahomes did Mahomes like things, 2 touchdowns last night. What is it about? I know the Chiefs had problems with their receivers catching passes. Maybe it should be called every single Pro Bowl for them because they were catching passes. Kelsey and Rice and even Tony caught a couple passes. That was a shock. Is this Does this tell me that the Kansas City Chiefs may be back on track to get back to Vegas, or is it just showing a sign that they played a very lesser opponent who's not used to Jack Frost?
I really think that the Kansas City Chiefs are a team that is very clutch. I believe they know when to turn it up, and they know when they don't turn it up that they're aware that they're not doing it. So Patrick Mahomes is young, but he is very seasoned. And like you said, they were catching a lot of passes yesterday. They knew that they had to do that because um, it has been proven that they can be beaten. So I feel like that's probably what was going on in their mind during that game. And I wanted to point out something as well. I'm glad to see that Tua is back with the Dolphins after that gruesome injury he had last season. And I have to point that out because that could have might have been the end of his career. So I applaud him for battling that out against the Chiefs and um, two young guys going at it like that. And I think that the Chiefs still have a shot of coming out on top of the AFC. It's like I said, a lot of teams had winning records, and it was a very close race. But I think that Patrick Mahomes, he's a very good quarterback when it comes to being clutch and being under pressure. I think he performs better under pressure because there's been a lot of games where he faced great opponents and they actually challenged his position, but he came out on top. So I think that's just something that he carries with him.
I think the really big thing is that Mahomes looked really good yesterday. I think the Isaac Isaiah Pacheco actually
Hmm.
keeps his team in rhythm.
Hmm.
He had almost close to 100 yards last night and a touchdown as well. And I think the defense has found itself somewhat. I still will have to figure out where they're going to go next week. If Pittsburgh wins, then Pittsburgh comes to Houston.
Right.
And then if Kansas City, then we'll have to go to Baltimore. So we still will have to see that moxie. See if Mahomes will have that moxie either in Kansas City or Buffalo, one of the two. Either way, they're going to have to go on the road. And even though they won the West, um, I'm still suspect about their defense. I think having Shadarius Ward come to San Francisco in a trade um, was one of the key moments. I know that there were some other different starters on the defensive side from their Super Bowl year that they're not there outside of Ward. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how they go from because they looked like a dominant team last night. Not
Hmm.
because Taylor Swift was there. It was just the fact is that um, I think they just found their niche at the right time, and hopefully this may take aboard, something even better. Um, as you know, tomorrow we talked about it. This is Buffalo. As of this day, they got people they're paying people $20 an hour to clean up the snow. Well, give them free food. All right. Not gonna freeze them to death neither. So Buffalo and Pittsburgh were supposed to been they were supposed to have been actually the first game uh, yesterday. And today it is a blizzard snowstorm, so I don't think nobody's out there working. But it's moved to MLK Day. It worked for the Steelers because they can get another day, but they are trapped in Pittsburgh. They have not left Pittsburgh yet, and they're supposed to leave at 3 o'clock Eastern, which is probably 45 minutes from now to try to fly to Buffalo, or when it calms down. All right, Courtney, J.J. Watt's brother is out, and T.J. And now Highsmith is going to have to come in and step up and do the dirty work that usually that that TJ would do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of questions with should the Steelers run the ball more in these conditions, or can can the red nosed reindeer save the day for them?
I actually just got two notifications on my end that's saying that we were getting two defensive players back off the inactive list. And I think I can't remember the names off the top of my head. I think it's Miles Jack, and we were getting a linebacker and a defensive back. So we're getting those two back. No, we'll be missing T.J. Watt, of course, but um, as far as running the ball, I think that Pittsburgh does a lot better when they mix up their playbook. Mason Rudolph came in at a time where everybody was confused and didn't know exactly what to do because Kenny Pickett is so young, and you can't really blame Kenny Pickett. You have to look at the front office. And, a lot of people were saying, well, Coach Tomlin needs to be fired or this offensive coordinator. Like, we got rid of Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator. No, excuse me, not Todd Haley. What was his name? I'm sorry, I'm going blank for a second.
Yeah, no. I know what you're talking about. I think it begins with a C, but you got rid of him.
Yeah,
Hold on,
we
like
got rid of
over three.
him. And
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like Mason Rudolph felt comfortable when he was just, going by his own playbook, and he was just making the proper approaches towards executing each play. The thing about it is with Pittsburgh, that franchise prides themselves on franchise players. And once those franchise players retire, we always try to find the next person that can fill those shoes. We have a young team, so we have to really build. It's not going to happen overnight, and I think that Kenny Pickett will be fine if he gets in the right situation with an offensive coordinator, because he proved himself when he was playing in college at Pittsburgh, and the Steelers wanted to pick him up. So I'll be quite honest, as a Steelers fan, I don't think Mason Rudolph is the answer. And some people might challenge that, some people might not. But I think for now, he's just the option we have to get us through. And not saying it in a bad way, but he's a more seasoned player than Kenny Pickett. So he can show a lot of leadership in that regards for Kenny Pickett. So next year, when Kenny Pickett comes back, hopefully he's healthy. He'll be able to perform next year.
And just to let you know, it was Matt Canada that you
Matt
got rid of.
Canada, yep. Okay, I
Yeah,
couldn't
it was
think of it
Matt
off the top of
Canada.
my head.
Hmm.
Because Todd
Yeah,
Haley was the offensive coordinator before Matt Canada.
before Matt Canada.
Yeah, I don't
I
know
think
where my mind is.
no, no. I think the really big thing is that with the Steelers, the key for this game tomorrow, Deontay Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Pickens, Freemuth need to all be involved in the passing part of this offense. It doesn't have to be long, but if they can get to 10 to 15, dink or dunks, and let Warren first, and either Warren or Najee get a starting start up with a little bit of a five, maybe six alternate 5, 6 yard runs or whatever, and then third and long, then hit the receivers on the ends, or even free moves. Um, I think you'll be able to beat the Bills. And I'm not saying the Bills are really a ragged defense or anything like that, but I think once you contain Ed Oliver, once you contain him, and the 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 comeback story of the year so far, Damar Hamlin is playing well. He's back to playing well, and but I think if you really take Josh Allen out of his his rhythm, take Stephon Diggs out, take Knox out, and take Davis out. If you take those three out and you depend upon their running game, which they don't have much of, because the 90% of the running game that they had at one time is here in Houston with Devin Singletary. So it's all been on Josh Allen's legs or Josh Allen's arm. So you take either one of those two away, and I think, excuse me, I think you're going to get yourself a victory. Today. I don't put nothing past the wild card. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't put nothing past the wild card.
There's an
Uh,
echo on my end. Can you hear it?
it it's actually
Your sound just went out.
now my echo. Yeah, I can. It may have been because when you're talking, I'm actually. It may be because my mic is up when you're talking, so I just cut it off. I
Okay.
cut the mic off. So, anyway, that's gonna be interesting. That's a 4:30 start tomorrow on MLK Day before the other one, and we'll talk about that team that's in trouble in Tampa. Um, Next today, as you probably know, there's two of them.
I knew it was coming. I had, you can keep going. I know
I
what I'm
did,
going to say about the Cowboys.
between Steve Bayless and 10,000 other people, I don't. Anyway, Jordan Love and the upstart young Packers take on the you know who people up in Dallas or however. The undefeated howevers at the house that Jerry, I don't know, built or tried to build this afternoon at 4:30 Eastern. Then later on, it's the reunion of teams that didn't want me quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford going home to where he started his career against Detroit in Detroit, and Jared Goff playing against a team that he won a Super Bowl ring with, the Los Angeles Rams.
Right.
Aaron Donald, and I'm gonna take these words from Aaron Donald's mouth as far as a quote he's made. He said, "We'd love to see Matthew Stafford. When I sack him, I'm going to say, hey, how's the wife? When he sacks Jared Goff, he's going to say, how's the wife? How's the kids? Hey, you left your Super Bowl ring in L.A. Okay. Jared Goff says, I'm just worried about the game. I'm not really worried about reuniting with my teammates." End of quote. Matthew Stafford on having a shrine made after him before the game in Ford Field on Sunday Night Football. It's just a game to me. I'm just looking to advance my team to the next round. End of quote. Now on the game at 3:30, this is what irks me more than anything. Rex Ryan early this morning on NFL Countdown, Playoff Countdown, said that this is probably the Cowboys' best chance to get to the Super Bowl. Excuse me. I got to throw up.
I know what you mean. Like, I'm holding it in myself because I really can't believe I actually agreed to it.
I mean, because I think when you really look at the Dallas Cowboys and the situation that you've won so many games at home. Who did you beat at home outside of Philadelphia? I mean, you really look at it. I mean, what the Giants, Commanders, these other cheap teams. Who did you beat at home? That's really qualified to say outside of Philadelphia. Who did you really beat at home? You beat nobody. You can score 40, 50 points at home, but when you get on the road, the only road game you really showed that you could really win is when you went to Commanders. I could take you and 700 people to beat the Commanders ourselves.
I
I
have a
mean,
philosophy about that.
and 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 for me, I think here, I hate to say it, and a lot of people are going to not agree with me, but my upset of the day will be in Arlington. Now,
I think
go ahead,
you
Corey.
you have a point. My thing is this, and I've always felt this way about Dallas because there are so many Dallas and well, now I can't say Redskins, but Commanders fans, right?
Hmm.
So my thing is this: if Dallas could only let's say they had a 16 game season, if Dallas beat Washington twice and lost the rest of the 14 games, they would be satisfied with that.
Hmm.
That's just how they've always been because they just want to beat each other. But when Dallas actually performs well and they play against teams that are average or good teams and they beat good teams, this camaraderie comes around them where they feel as if they can compete against other teams that are actually better. Like, I'll give you an example. The NFC East, the Giants, they really don't have luck ever. Like, they could get a good quarterback and he'll get hurt the first or second game. The Commanders, they just got rid of a coach and they haven't kept a solid coaching unit. The Eagles, the Eagles, I think, is the best team in that division. Although the Cowboys have won more games, am I correct?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Well,
if
really,
you think,
they won the same amount of games.
yeah, okay,
No,
I knew
no,
it was a
Cowboys
close
did win
race,
the
or
most.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, I knew it was either a close race or that one of them won a little bit more than the other. But personally, I'm not a big Dallas person. That's one of my rivals because they played three Super Bowls against the Steelers, and we won two. So when it comes to the trash talk and all that stuff, I'm always there. But I'm with you. Like, I don't like Dallas, and I never will.
And the really big thing is that at, I go to this day being the day that we celebrate an anniversary, because on this day, on the 14th of January 2018 or 2017, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers were 8.5 point underdogs at Dallas in Dak Prescott's rookie season. And Dak and the boys started 10-0 or 10-1 or something,
Uh-huh.
and won the NFC East, and they were the number 2 seed. And the Dallas Cowboys lost on a Mason Crosby 52-yard field goal. And who was the coach at the time for the Green Bay Packers? That same guy who's the coaching the Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. If Mike McCarthy loses this game, there's a guy right over the shoulder named Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh. One of the two will be looking at Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones will have him on speed dial. One of the two. We'll talk about that as well. Let's move on. As we know, for some reason or another, this year has been a tough year for both. I'd say Rihanna Bowl, Super Bowl team last year. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs have, for some reason or other, they have gone through struggles. Um, can last year's Super Bowl teams return this time to the desert, but now in Vegas?
That's a great question. I think they have the ability to do that because they have the experience and they know what it takes to get there. However, the opponents that are still in the race with the wild card and the playoff contention, I'll give you an example. So with Pittsburgh, no matter who Pittsburgh has as the wide receiver or whoever they have in as quarterback, you can really never count Pittsburgh out, and you can never really count Baltimore out because they always find a way to work with what they have. So that's going to be a little tough for the Chiefs, I think. But I think that they can actually, compete against other teams deeper into the playoffs. And as far as the Eagles, um, I I've been keeping up with the Eagles and paying attention to a couple of articles that sports columnist Mike Silsky, one of my good friends, he writes for the Inquirer up there in Philly, and he has taken some good take. He has some good takes on Nick Sirianni and all of the different things that have been going on with the Eagles this year because they were so dominant last year, but it's like this year they kind of, I don't know, it's just not the same, and we all know this, but I think that they can return. It's just not going to be as easy as it once was. Like I said, because you can't count out these other teams. Dallas is not to backtrack, but Dallas is one of those teams that you really can't count them out either, because sometimes they get lucky, and then sometimes they beat themselves. So you never really know what's going to happen.
And I think the really big thing is out of these two teams, everything has changed, and we're going to roll straight into Philly to the Philly situation. But
Hmm.
I think for them, everything has changed, and for me, I think Philly, for some reason or another, their defensive structure has changed because of
Right.
some trades. One with San Francisco, and the other one I think with I believe it was with Seattle. But I have to remember. I'll have to backtrack on that, and then losing their key running back to cap space with Miles Sanders going to Carolina, which that was a dumb move. I think somebody should have picked him up.
Yeah,
Else a contender should have picked him up.
the Eagles also lost one of their key defensive players, Terrell Edmonds. He got traded to the Titans.
Yes, yes, and Javon Hargrave went to San Francisco on a multi-year deal. Um, I think that changed their their trajectory. But I think they have the receiving core hasn't been the same since Nelson Aguilar was traded or was
Hmm.
let go. Their receiving core hasn't been the same as well. Speaking of, we all talk about the Eagles, the domination, and blah 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 with them. Ah, I really think tomorrow is it time for us, or is it time for us to say panic time for the wounded Eagles at the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football tomorrow?
Mm. Um, yes. And it's weird to even say that teams like the Buccaneers, the Lions, those teams are actually in contention right now. They can't take that game lightly. I just know that for sure.
Hmm. And I think with Baker Mayfield playing the hottest football he's ever played in his
Hmm.
career, um, and you have the weapons now with Godwin, uh, Michael Evans, and Godwin, and Cameron Brate, and then the running game led by White. You're really, and the defense is really, even though the defense took a hit of losing some key people from salary cap issues, they're still really potent enough to really take Jalen Hurts out. With Hurts being kind of walking and wounded, AJ Brown out, everything's going to go to Goddard or either Smith. And what do they have in the backfield? For me, I think it's time to panic. Really, I think Leonard. I think the the management brass with Philadelphia, they're looking at what is over their shoulder.
Hmm.
Mm, they're another team that could be on the speed dial for Bill Belichick because of the fact is Nick Sirianni, even though he took them to the Super Bowl, they didn't win, has had a decently good record of 39-17. The problem is he has lost all of their players in the actual locker room. Darius Slay is saying, "I'm glad we're on the road, so we don't have to hear our fans booing us." That tells you right there that that city is just pretty much done with them, and they're ready to go watch the 76ers play. Um, it's horrible.
Yeah, I've followed Philadelphia for a while now. I took a trip up there back in 2014, and to see the culture of the and how the fans react to their professional teams is very different and odd. And I've gotten mixed reviews about what Philadelphia fans are like. And when you mentioned the 76ers, I'll be quite honest, when I was staying in the hotel up there in Philly, they didn't have not one thing of Philadelphia 76ers in the gift shop. They Philadelphia fans are known to be the most diehard fans when they're winning, but then once they don't win, they just show themselves in not good ways. That's what I've been told. That's what I've kind of witnessed a little bit over the last couple of years. But with Jalen Hurts being in Philadelphia, he's a positive image, and I think since he's so young and he's going to stick around for a long time, I think he can kind of balance that culture out a little bit because um, nobody likes us to be a sore loser, but that's just kind of how it looks with them sometimes. I hate to say it, but
And I have a couple of colleagues from Philadelphia, and one being my god sister, and she said, um, you know, she said Philly fans could be funky, and
mhm.
when you're winning, and it's just like, well, Philadelphia fans are almost like New York fans. You're winning, everybody's applauding you. You're losing, and it's almost like there's so many boo birds out. It's just like they'll fly over. Who's going to crap on you first? Um, I think the really big thing is that bringing Matt Patricia from the Lions as a defensive coordinator on the field and leaving the
Mhm.
defensive coordinator they have up in the in the in the press box was a big mistake. It was a total big mistake. I think that you really want to take a look at how you really actually are constructing the team as well. Um, as far as, do you make these moves to try to keep these, if you lose a player, lose a key player, how do you, and the salary cap, you've taken them off your salary cap, how do you bring new players in? Who do you really start going after replacing? And they never really replaced. Their draft was horrible, and I'm not for sure. Moving on, listen to these sports on watching the sports on right here on the Rebirth. Uh, Myself, Michael Lewis, a sports vet, along with Courtney Mendenhall. Um, you can follow us on the Sports Zone on X. This part of it is brought to you by Evermore Water. Evermore Water, more better water. All right, you know, it pains me to talk about this, but before we go any further, the Mental Buckets is next at 3:05 Eastern, 2:05 Central, as well on the Rebirth. It pains me to talk about this next topic on the day before Martin Luther King Day, but I have to. As you probably know, the gangster of gangsters of the NBA has returned to our sideline in the Bay Area. Yes, known for not choking in the playoffs, but choking people and throwing a right cross punch. Draymond Green has returned back to the Warriors, even though he's been playing limited minutes, not punching anyone. Thank goodness. Are the Warriors needing to move on from Draymond? I'll let you put your 2 cents in first. I know where mine is going to go.
Draymond Green, I'll be quite honest, and this is not biased information or anything like that. I've never been a huge fan of Draymond Green. However, I respect his talent and his ability to make a difference with the Warriors or on the court, period. But he's one of those players that he's passionate, but he doesn't channel it in the right way. He's quick to react to everything. And as an athlete, you know, sometimes the heat of the moment, it comes up, but you have to know how to balance that out and control it. There are other examples of players in the league that get a little hot headed when they're faced with competition and things like that. But the Warriors need Draymond Green as a piece. But as far as if he can't act the way he's supposed to act, they need to get that negative energy away and do away with him because it's going to cause a distraction.
You know, I would be honest with you. I know they're 3-36. Cade Cunningham and the center they traded away to Detroit. Make that trade now. Trade Cade Cunningham to San Francisco. Send Draymond home to Pontiac, Flint, Detroit. Let him swing on somebody there. Distract the Pistons because they're not going to go. Monty Williams is already going through a bunch of stuff. Let him go back home because his time in the Bay Area is done. It's done. He's won 3, 4 titles and came up with the Steph, the Clay era of the big three.
Hmm.
Now the big three is done. They're already talking about letting Andrew Wiggins go. They're already looking at probably some pieces that can add to get them back in, but it's too late. The Steve Kerr era most likely will end. Monty Williams most likely will leave Detroit and will come to Golden State. I really don't. I think yeah, I agree with you. I think he channels it in the wrong way. Draymond channels it in the wrong way. But the problem is with him is the fact is that I remember him doing. I remember him doing a lot of crazy things on the parade route when we had the parade in San Francisco when we won the championship. And he was talking about, I don't care what anybody else says, blah, 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 blah. And the F and the N words, and blah, 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 came out. I knew there was a problem with it. And he channels it in the wrong way that I think is detrimental to the school, to the team. Bob
Hmm.
Myers, who works now for the Washington Commanders, and he also is going to have some say in the Washington Wizards and Mystics, said in the interview, he said that Draymond is a great person off the court, but on the court, his antics show that for some reason or other, he is using his talents the wrong way.
Right.
Um, but that's another day and another time. I just hope,
Yeah,
you know,
I I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna say with Draymond being like that and Steve Kerr, I really um admire Steve Kerr's coaching philosophies and how he is as a coach. And I really dislike the whole situation around Draymond for him because it makes me wonder like has he said I mean I know he said something to him about what he's been doing, but Steve Kerr isn't one of those guys that he was a baller himself, he was a great competitor. So when I look at coaches like him, no matter
mm,
what sport it is, I hate to see like when players act out like that because it does reflect back on the coach. The coach has to stop letting these players get away with this stuff.
yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, we, we we just have to understand. Some players are needing more mental attention,
Mhm.
um, like John Morant had to do. Now he came back very great, and then now he's hurt.
Yeah.
Um, and so, understandably so, the Warriors will probably have to do some defacing at the end of the season because they're most likely not going to make the playoffs. But they'll need to reduce some defacing. We'll see what happens. All right. Well, today is the day. I'm putting Courtney on. I'm putting Courtney on a quiz. Today is
Uh-oh.
the today is the day. Putting Courtney on the quiz. All right. Predictions on today's game and why and where and who will win.
Ooh.
Dallas Green Bay.
I want Green Bay to win, but I really can't call that one, to be honest. I think it'll be a good competition, but um I can't really call like what the score will be, honestly.
Okay. Love and the Packers get off to a great start. Aaron Jones has a great start running the ball,
Mhm.
which Dallas has a poor defensive mindset against off on the edge. And if Dak Prescott starts off cold, the Packers win this ball game by
Yeah,
6 and ends Dallas's winning streak. If Dallas gets out and starts off with CeeDee Lamb and mixes with Pollard and mix it with some receiver slots, catches to Cooks and Gallup, then Dallas wins by about maybe 10.
I can see that.
Yeah. Let's go to tonight in Ford Field in Detroit. Detroit, LA.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Detroit because I have a quick funny story about Detroit. When I was in college, I had a professor that it was a Detroit Lions fan. So when he taught us history, he would tell us like um, when he talked about football, he would say this happened in SEC territory or this happened in the ACC territory, like when he talked about history. So he told us he was a Lions fan, and he told us he said, "Well, they've never had a Super Bowl, and they can't make the playoffs." So I'm honestly happy for Detroit to see them performing the way they are this year because they're shocking everybody. So I honestly have Detroit winning that game, but I think it's going to be decided probably by 10 maybe. I can see Detroit coming out early and starting on that very soon. So shout out to the Lions though, because when they first started winning this year, that was the first thing I thought about. My teacher. So I know he's happy somewhere wherever he is now.
Yeah, I think last year we saw the Detroit Lions improve at 8 and 9. I knew Dan
Yep.
Campbell was going to change his team around with a couple more tweaks. They draft Jamar Gibbs and Jameer Gibbs, and they let DeAndre Swift go to Philly, which
Hmm.
he's done decent there, but not like he did in Detroit. And the Williams left. The running back Jamal Williams left and went out west to Denver. What I'm thinking is that this if if St. Brown, if Laporta, if Williams, the receiving core, and Gibbs starts this offense up and they protect Jared Goff, it's going to be a long night for that Rams defense because the Rams defense, even though we lost to them without Christian McCaffrey, we could have won because our kicker just decided to fall asleep. Um, I think really the main thing is that the Lions can win this game. They sack Matt Stafford a few times, get him or hurry him a few times, take Nakua and take Cup out of them, and Williams out, Kyron Williams out of the equation, and really, cut down Donald. I think that will be a great victory. Now on the Rams side, if Donald gets to Goff and they pick off Jared Goff maybe 2 or 3 times, and they can cash in on those turnovers, Matthew Stafford will walk in and will start waving by at all the people that didn't like him in Ford Field during the bad years. So I could just see. We can only see. We can only see. Tomorrow, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. and Tampa Bay, Philly. Who do you have?
Well, I'm going to pick Pittsburgh. However, I'm kind of nervous about the game tomorrow. I actually did some research on Pittsburgh's schedule and their performance. And what I found was that we do better with 1 o'clock games than we do with games that are later on in the day. I don't know why that
Mhm.
is. But as far as like the Bills go, before they traded Tremaine Edmonds and they had all those other defensive players for the Bills, they were the team to look out for. But I think they are beatable this year. With Pittsburgh, I think that the players that we have on the active roster right now have to step up in order to fill the shoes of TJ Watt. Like you were saying, what's his name? Smith is coming in. We're getting
Mhm.
two defensive players back on the active roster today. So I have the Steelers winning that by a touchdown. As far as the Bills, if they get out early and Hamlin has a great game, I think that they'll probably end up winning by 7-2. But I think it's going to be a close one.
Okay. Yeah, knowing the conditions they have up there in Orchard Park, I think it's going to be a very low scoring game.
Yep.
I think it'll be won by more of Josh Allen's legs or
Yep.
Najee Harris's legs for Pittsburgh. If
Mhm.
Pittsburgh can hold that that Buffalo offense down, it could take a lot of things away from Diggs and Knox and Davis on the outside and their running game. I think they can and force Josh Allen into some bad passes. I think the Pittsburgh and the Steelers can have Rudolph to balance the passing to Johnson and Pickens and Freemuth and balance between Warren and Harris in the backfield, and Highsmith steps up for that defense in the back, for in replace of TJ. I think basically that might be the other upset of the day. As
Yeah.
far as the other one is concerned, I'm going with Tampa Bay in this one. I think Philadelphia has lost interest. I think they've. I think for some reason or another, I don't even think Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff will help them.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I was gonna say I forgot to put my take on the Eagles and Tampa Bay. I have to agree with you with your point of view because the Eagles are kind of just fed up at this point.
Yeah, I just don't see nothing of them. I don't even think Sylvester Stallone can help them, even in his age. I mean, it's something else, I'll say Tampa Bay will win that game if they can get to Jalen Hurts and they can stop their passing because without AJ Brown, I think I think Tampa wins that game by 10
Okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah, and I was
What
gonna say for the Pittsburgh Buffalo game, it might end up being a field goal game, and if it is, then we have the right guy for the job, Chris Boswell. He's been so clutch.
hmm
He's
Yeah.
awesome. I love him.
Well, that is going to do it for this version of the Sports Zone, the first one with Courtney and myself. Join us next Sunday for the Sports Zone right here on the Rebirth. Uh, Mental Buckets is up next on the Rebirth. Again, thank you very much for joining us on the Rebirth on the Rain. Uh, You've been listening to the Sports Zone on the Rain.